today's outcomes. Hopefully by the end of this session, you guys are going to be able to cite examples of current research on the use of technology for children birth to 8. You're going to be able to differentiate the implications of assistive technology for young children with disabilities versus the use of technology as an early learning tool. You'll be able to identify developmentally appropriate apps and other technology resources that support language, play, literacy, and early math skills, including assistive technology tools for access and communication. And we'll also consider how to include developmentally appropriate technology into IFSPs and IEPs. And just a little background on myself. I am a administrator of an early childhood special education program in Montgomery County in Maryland. And we have been piloting, actually we just finished a pilot, I guess we've moved on to a real implementation of the use of iPads in our home-based services for young children with disabilities. So a lot of what we are going to be looking at today came out of that pilot and the research that we did to prepare for it so that we were really supporting best practices. So is everybody excited? I love this picture. As we go through this webinar, I really want people's input. So please, I will keep my eye on the chat box, and I'll answer questions or respond to comments as I'm able to. I really believe that education for both children and adults should be interactive and not one-sided, and I don't want to just talk at you for the next hour. I'd rather talk with you for the next hour. And while people are trying to log in, the screen that's there is, what are your thoughts? Children under the age of 5 should have minimal screen time. Children 2 and under should have no screen time. Some screen time is okay, even for infants and toddlers, or it doesn't matter how much screen time young children get. So I see some people entering their information that sometime is okay. Teresa says no screen time for children 2 and under. Callie says some screen time is okay, and that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to talk about the implications of how much screen time kids should have. And there's a lot of policy statements that are out there that we can use to provide some guidance. And that we really want to make sure that children, and if you're just listening by phone, you'll be able to pull up the PowerPoint afterwards. So the National Association for the Education of Young Children is one of the policy statements that we're going to take a look at. We are going to take a look at the American Academy of Pediatrics. We're going to take a look at policy statements by 0 to 3 and by RAND Corporation. And hold on to your thoughts, because I'm going to ask you that question again at the end. So let's look at the American Academy of Pediatrics recommendations. They, first of all, and that's kind of what's touted often as the no screen time for children 2 and under. They have a very narrow definition of media use, and they say right in their policy statement, and this is the part that most people don't read, is that for the purposes of this policy statement, the term media refers to television programs, pre-recorded videos, web-based programming, and DVDs viewed on either traditional or new screen technologies. So they're not really looking, when they talk about media, at any of the interactive components that is available in the new mobile technology that we're all using these days. So keep that in mind when you hear those recommendations of no screen time, that they're really talking about watching, passive watching of media, as opposed to interactive use of media. The National Association of Education of Young Children's policy statement is a little bit more encompassing, and what they really say is that the distinction among the devices, the content, and the user experience has been blurred by multi-touch screens and movement-activated technologies, so those iPads and all those mobile devices that we have out there, and that with guidance, these various technology tools can be harnessed for learning and development. Without guidance, usage can be inappropriate or interfere with learning and development. So it's looking at it much more broadly than that American Academy of Pediatrics. So good things to keep in mind. The AEYC policy statement is really a wonderful read, and there's links to it in the PowerPoint that you could be able to pull up afterwards. There's guidance for early childhood educators about that use of technology and interactive media so that we can optimize opportunities for young children's cognitive, social, emotional, physical, and linguistic development. It really talks about the differences between interactive versus non-interactive solitary. And that really is not so much like the computer or the device interacting with the child, but interacting peers and adults interacting with the child while they're using that device. It really talks more in depth about what exactly is screen time and the difference between technology for technology's sake versus a mean to an end. It also talks about assistive technology and that we should be ensuring that any use of technology or media is a way to strengthen adult-child relationships, not as a babysitting tool. And that there are really effective uses of technology and media when they are active, hands-on, engaging, and empowering for children and parents. They specifically talk about birth to 2 years and that there may be appropriate uses of technology for infants and toddlers in some contexts. And they call out viewing digital photos, participating in Skype interactions, co-viewing ebooks, and engaging with some interactive apps. They do say that educators should limit the amount of screen time and that ensure that any use of technology serves as a way to strengthen adult-child relationships. That makes perfect sense, right? Would everybody agree with that? So we know that play is central to children's development and learning, and that children's interactions with technology and media mirror their interactions with other play materials, and that includes sensory motor, practice play, make-believe play, games with rules. And so we need to give young children opportunities to explore technology and interactive media in playful and creative ways. So not just sitting there passively viewing, but how can they interact and be playful and creative with it. So let's take a look at some of the recommendations from the RAND Corporation. And they really talk about 6 considerations that we need to have in redefining technology use. So is it purposefully integrated to support learning? Is its use solitary, or is it taking place with others? And I think that is probably one of the key things that we hear over and over again. And what are the content features of that media? Are the devices features age appropriate, and what is this total screen time involved? 0 to 3, the organization 0 to 3 has done some really important research, and they have policy statements as well, supporting that very purposeful use of technology and media with young children. They talk about the 2D to 3D and the transfer deficit. And the idea with that is that any time that children interact with two-dimensional media, they need to be able to connect it to the real three-dimensional world in order to really understand it. And so that transfer deficit happens with children who are less than 2 years old because they don't have that symbolic thinking that's necessary to understand that what they see on the screen is a stand-in or a symbol for the real thing. So when we give children an opportunity to see that what might be happening on the screen is something that happens also in real life, we reduce the transfer deficit. And when we give repetition of those experiences and use that information to transfer it to real life situations. So an example of that might be if you were using an app called My Play Home, great interactive, rich app, where they get the opportunity to play it's kind of like digital paper dolls in a kitchen, and then they also get the opportunity to play with a real toy kitchen or in a real kitchen, for example. Okay, so that opportunity to create transference from 2D to 3D and make those connections between what that child sees on the screen and what they experience in the real world. So playing games. So if they're playing with blocks on the screen, you need to play with blocks in real world and talk about, oh, look, these are blocks. Oh, look, on the screen, these are blocks. label objects in real life that they've seen on TV, such as animals or flowers or the things in the kitchen. So that's really what the recommendations from 0 to 3 are. We can't forget about assistive technology, and there's a lot of misconceptions regarding assistive technology, including augmentative communication, where it's limited the recommendations for its application to children under the age of 3. So some of these misconceptions have included the belief that using augmentative communication is giving up on oral communication, and the belief that children need to understand cause and effect before using technology or assistive technology. In actuality, the research shows that children who use assistive technology developed increased understanding of cause and effect. So you don't have to have a prerequisite to handing them a device. They don't have to understand cause and effect because the use of that augmentative communication, the use of that assistive technology is actually going to help cement their understanding of cause-effect. And that additionally, research shows that that AAC, augmentative communication use, does not negatively impact the development of oral language skills, and it can be a bridge to oral language. So there's no reason not to use assistive technology with very young children. It is not going to prevent them from learning. It's actually going to increase their learning. So a real important component there. So when we look at, some of the assistive technology that's out there for young learners, it's everything as simple as a switch-activated toy that a child might use to a complex augmentative communication system that is available on a device, a mobile device, such as an iPad or a dedicated device, or something along the lines of whether it's low-tech on paper form of a visual system to support comprehension or to support behavior and transitions, or a digital, you see a screenshot there of a visual schedule, and we're going to take a look at a visual schedule app there. So some real important things, because children with disabilities, assistive technology provides children with disabilities access to what all children do in preschool and learning environments, and that's to play, to have language and communication, to regulate their behavior, and have access to curriculum, including early literacy and math instruction. So when we talk about assistive technology in an IEP or an IFSP, it is in order to give them access to what all children would do in preschool and an early learning environment. And I talk about preschool and early learning environments because we know that not all children are in preschool, and other natural environments are the home, the library, the other places in the community in addition to preschool settings. So when we talk about incorporating technology into the IFSP, some really important questions arise because we're talking about those natural environments and that IFSP as the individual family service plan, right? So getting into those questions that we're going to ask families, how does their family view technology as a part of their routines? Because we're looking at how do we incorporate this into their routines. So are they already using technology? Is it a part of their world already? Do they hand the child their phone to watch a video when they are trying to get something done? What are their priorities, needs, and concerns? The IFSP specifically asks us to look at what are priorities, needs, and concerns. How is the technology going to be used? Can we then build it into an outcome for that family, or is it a service or a strategy? We do similar things with an IEP, perhaps through the SET process, but we might be doing that less as a demand from, or not a demand, less as a drive from the parent and more a drive to access curriculum and participate in the school environment. So what have we got? We have, in today's world, we've got an avalanche, okay? So we are just inundated with all of the apps that are out there, good and bad. You can go onto iTunes and type in early mathematics or counting skills or, ebooks, and you will come up with hundreds and hundreds of um, different apps out there. So how do you find quality apps that promote parent-child or peer-to-peer interactions? How do you find apps that encourage language, that build early literacy and math skills in a playful manner, that encourage movement and exploration of the environment? So we're going to look at that next. There's a link on there. You can get that directly from the PowerPoint. It'll link directly to it, or you can go to commonsensemedia.org. It is a wonderful resource to see reviews of apps, and the great thing about it is that it can be filtered by age levels very, very easily. So you can look at a band of 2 to 4-year-olds, or 3 to 5-year-olds, or 4 to 6-year-olds, however you want to do it, and it will really provide some good insight into what apps are. So, what makes an effective early childhood app? It should be open-ended to support play and problem solving. So, we're not necessarily looking for apps that have a right answer that a child has to get. They should promote literacy, language, and vocabulary development without drill and kill. We don't need young children to be drilled on their math facts or on being able to count. They need to explore and come to an understanding of early mathematics skill, of problem solving, of literacy through exploration, not through drilling them. We are looking for apps that include rich and engaging activities that invite a high degree of interactivity and control by the user. So not passivity and going through it and that there's only one way to do it, but how can they interact with it and control it. We want apps that encourage movement, both fine and gross motor. There can be some great apps out there, and we're going to look at a couple that really help promote motor development. We want apps that enhance and encourage interactions with adults and peers rather than promoting solitary exploration. Not that we don't know that there is a time and a place that you need to just have your kids sitting there so that you can cook dinner or whatever it is that families need to get done, but that ideally we're not giving children technology as a babysitter, but that we're interacting with children. Really important, and I don't know that people really always think about this as much, is that we really want to make sure that we have apps that are culturally diverse and that are free of stereotypes. Are the apps that you're providing young children, are there opportunities in those apps for them to see children that look like themselves, for them to see families that look like their families, that not everything is only presented in one way. And we also want apps that meet a developmental need, an appropriate developmental need. So we're going to take a look. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment at some apps that promote open-ended play and problem solving. There are lots of them out there. This is by no means a comprehensive list, and I would love it if people have apps that they've used. So if we kind of go back to this last slide here about what makes an effective early childhood app, if you were to go through that list and you knew that there were some apps that really promote open-ended play and problem solving based on that criteria, I would love it if folks would type some of those in the chat window to be able to share with other people. Some of the ones that I have liked the most are the My Play Home series. That includes the My Play School, and there's some other ones in there as well. The Toca Boca, I think a lot of people are really familiar with the Toca Boca hairdresser one, and we're going to take a look at the robot one. Face for Kids is one of my favorites. There's a screenshot there of it, and we'll go into it in just a moment. Wood blocks for kids, you can see the screenshot there where it looks like the three-dimensional blocks that kids use and that they can explore and play. And there's a great app called Sesame Street Family Play where you can't do anything in the app, but it gives you ideas and for interactions for games and such. So you pick a setting. You might be, say, indoors or outdoors or in the living room or in the bedroom or in the kitchen, and it gives you an idea for an activity. You say how many people are involved, 1, 2, 3, and it pulls up specific games, so like making a tent out of a bed sheet and a couple of chairs. So for those kids and those families that are so tied into their mobile devices that they can't seem to put them down to play, it's a great app that I really like for that one. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen, so if everyone will have a little bit of patience as I do that, as I pull up one of the apps on my iPad. So I'm going to switch over. I am going to give me a second to get that going. Make sure that I have Reflector on there. So hang on. I know Nolan. Nolan, if you can go back to the screenshot, to the slide. I'm going to make sure that this is all working properly. And connect up. Okay, there we go. I'm getting into what I need. Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you now. So, okay, I'm going to go over and share my screen. You're going to see my iPad come up in just a moment. Let's see. I don't see it coming up yet. Let's make sure it comes up. I'm going to make sure Reflector is on. I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute because I want to make sure I can come back, that I can get back into this. That will come up. We're going to share this. Make sure I'm on the same. And give me 1 second. I apologize. I seem to have been bumped from one network to another. I'm going to make sure that my iPad and my screen are on the same network. And technology is, while we're doing that, Jackie said that she likes Art Maker by ABC Play School. We're going to look, I'm not familiar with that one, Jackie. We are going to look, at another art one. Hopefully we will get this all to come up. Without any interruption. Of course, this worked right before you guys all logged on. We didn't have any problems. All right, I'm going to keep trying this, but while I'm going to go, if Nolan, you can take me back to the screen. I'm going to go on to the next slide just to make sure that I'm not losing folks. I'm going to keep trying to get my Mac to come on. Okay, there we go. Yay, excellent. Hallelujah. I'm going to go back and share that screen because I'm where I need to be now. I'm going to share the screen and go back in. I'm going to hit share. I'm going to turn my mirroring on. Yay. Excellent. So hopefully everybody's seeing my my iPad right now on your screen. And we're going to take a look at Faces for Kids. This is a really cute little app there. It's you're seeing a face that I'd already made earlier, but you can see I can go in and I can, let's go and do, I'm going to create without limits. I'm going to have a cute little face there. I could have, if I turn my little scroll wheel there, I have all the different parts, and as you can see, I can have that face be whatever color face that that child might actually have, as opposed to using a face that they might not. So maybe they look like that. I can turn that wheel and I can pick eyes. You can see how we could really get into some conversations here with, what color are your eyes? Let's look in the mirror before we choose eyes. Do you want your friend to have blue eyes like you? Do you want them to have brown eyes like you? How parents can really get involved in that with their kids, that they can go find a nose. Oh, I like that nose there. Let's go put that nose on. That they can find a mouth. Oh, that's a silly mouth. That doesn't look at all like you. How about some hair? Do you have red hair? Do you have brown hair? So you can really see how children would be able to get involved and talk, communicate, how it's really open-ended. There's no right way or wrong way to go through this app. So I'm going to take my mirroring off. I'm going to go back to, if you can pop me back in, Nolan, into my into the slideshow. If not, I can, now I remember how to do it. All right, Nolan's helping me. Thank you. Okay, so a great activity that is really very open-ended, allows them to get into problem solving. How am I going to get that face on there? How am I going to find the different components and the parts of that? So you can see where we can go with that. Apps for communication. This is far from a comprehensive list. I'm not advocating one app versus another. Some of the ones that I am most familiar with that I've had an opportunity to play with, we happen to have the Go Talk Now app on all of our iPads. We're using it diagnostically. We use it to create activities. It has video embedded in it where you can video and use that with a child. So we're using it in a lot of ways beyond simply for communication or as assistive technology. But there are many other apps out there as well. There's the Touch Chat app. There's LAMP Words for Life, which is by PRC. We are going to take a look at an app that's called FTVS, First Then Visual Schedule, which is not so much, can be used as a verbal output. It does have can have sound associated with it, but that it can be used to build visual schedules. But some real important things to consider when you're looking at an app for communication is, does it allow you to have SNUG? And SNUG stands for Spontaneous Novel Utterance Generation. And so can kids be able to create their own sentences and not just have pre-stored vocabulary? With that is the need for core vocabulary. We'll look at how the Go Talk Now, at its kind of most basic, can give some very simple core vocabulary that can go along with what we call fringe vocabulary. So core vocabulary can be used for many, many functions. And fringe vocabulary is kind of that very activity-specific vocabulary. So if you're talking about bubbles, your fringe vocabulary might be things like pop and blow, but that you would have some core vocabulary that would be around more and up and down, things that you could use in lots of different ways. And with that, looking at apps for communication is really that we want to make sure that children get the opportunity to express more than just beyond their wants and needs. So I'm going to hopefully not have any problem going in and showing you another app. I am going to go in and share my screen with you in just a moment, now that everything seems to be working fine. So I am going to share my screen. I am going to, we should be seeing hopefully the my iPad come up. Right now I know you're just seeing my thing. I'm going to do this one more time. Sometimes it seems to be the way that we have to go into it. Share that screen one more time. Okay, there we go. I don't know why it takes twice every time to do it. Okay, so here's an example from the Go Talk Now of a very simple 4-button setup for play, eat, read, go out. I would consider that to be some core vocabulary. Those are things that you can use a lot, but are not necessarily, you're not going to get a whole lot from just those. And so with that, there's also, if I push that little exclamation point, in the Go Talk Now, you always have access to these 4, so no matter how many, with the Go Talk Now you can set up either 4, 6, 9, 24 buttons, I think might be the maximum in the app, but you can always have access to this core vocabulary. So I put in, and it's whatever you want to put in, I put in me, you, go, and stop. So if a child was talking about wanting to be able to play and that they could be able to have play, you're not hearing that real loudly, that they'd be able to say play, with me, or they want to, I want to play with you. Or maybe they, you were reading and they want you to stop reading because they really want to go out. Okay, so some really simple things. These can also take us over into where this would be much more kind of that content specific. So you can see how the books would then link directly to some books that they have. And they'd always have access then to those core vocabulary no matter what screen. So, maybe they're going to tell you that they want to read Brown Bear, and they'd be able to go. And you could actually build in the pages for a book, have the characters, whatever it is that you wanted in that, and they'd always still have access to that core vocabulary. So again, just one example of an app that is that assistive technology, but can be a lot broader than that. I also want to show you now the First Then visual schedule, HD. I'm going to turn it so I can see it right away. So this is where you're able to build a schedule for a child. I'm going to show you so we could see kind of more. So here might be a schedule of a nighttime, a bedtime schedule for a child. Maybe a child that has a hard time getting ready for bed and really needs step-by-step how they get to it. You could do this on paper. You could do this with PCS symbols, but this is a way to do it digitally. This is also completely printable. You can share it as a PDF and send it to a family, but they can go in, and you can see there's different ways they could do it, where they could check off that they've had their free time. Now it's time for your bath, and that's highlighted and brought up. Okay, your bath is done. It's time to brush your teeth. You've done that. If a different way of doing it, if they're used to kind of pulling things into that envelope, the low-tech way, you can see the Velcro on the background there. All right, we've had our book. It's time for that. Now, looks like that's a little out of order. We'd probably want to put our PJs on before we went to sleep. I don't know so much about putting the PJs on after you went to sleep. But again, you can see how you've done that, and they can go and see, look, we've done all of these things. So again, that really nice way to be able to do that. The great thing about that app, if I go to the home button and I go to the settings, is that you can easily share the schedule by email, or you can easily print that schedule as well. And when you share the schedule, you can either share it as a PDF with that family, or if they have the app, it is a for purchase app. If they have the app, then they would, it's about a $9 app, $10 app. It also has in there, it also has the ability to record and put video as well. So a really nice app that, again, you could see how that meets a developmental need. I'm going to go I'm going to go ahead and leave the app and stop sharing my screen with you and go back into the PowerPoint. I'm going to turn that off, go back, stop sharing, and let's see, make sure that I'm not sharing my screen with you. I'm going to turn that off Okay, good. So you can really see how if we go back and look at those requirements for what makes an effective early childhood app, that it has a lot of interactivity and control by the user there. It encourages some of that movement, and it enhances and encourages interactions. So Jill's talking about that she's definitely going to be adding the Go Talk Now app. And there's a free version of Go Talk Now that lets you create up to 3 books. That's what they call their board sets as books. And then the purchased app, which is, there's a couple different versions starting at like about $79 where you have access to the full thing. There's lots of light versions and full versions. Again, I really do like that First Then Visual schedule because it's relatively inexpensive, and I could have any of those buttons talk and take me into a simple communication board as well. So again, meeting a developmental need. We could see how the Faces app is culturally diverse, is free of stereotypes, so some different things there. You saw the First Then Visual app. You can see how when I actually created a visual schedule of how to use First Then Visual Schedule for my staff so that you gather your images, you turn on the edit mode, you add a title, you add items, you add elements. So that was sort of my little way of organizing them. So apps that promote language literacy and language. There are hundreds and hundreds of ebooks out there, and many of them sort of tout all the bells and whistles, which can be great with children sitting by themselves. It could also increase interaction. There's not a lot of good research out there, though, that shows that these highly bells and whistles type ebooks promote literacy, and I really like some of the simpler things. There's a link there, so when you get a copy of the PowerPoint, to the digital Storytime app reviews, and they review different books, and they look at a lot of those different, what's the learning in it, how much interactivity is it, what age is it appropriate for, all of those things. And so it's a great place to look. A wonderful app that for all educators to know about is called Epic. I'll take you in and we'll look at that in just a moment. Epic is a digital library of hundreds of children's books. They are very low-key. The most exciting thing that you will find in it would be the illustrations that the authors have created, or the illustrators have created. There's no bells and whistles. Some of the books have narration, not text-to-speech. But it's just a very rich way to get a lot of books available. And the wonderful thing is that for educators, it's completely free. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. And then there's a small yearly fee, I believe, for if a parent wants to have it on there. David Weisner's Spot, if you're familiar with Flotsam, is one of his books. There's some other ones out there. It's just a beautiful, delightful, rich, no words book that's available out there. There's a screenshot of it on the page there. It kind of just takes you through a journey, and it would really, these wordless books really encourage interaction and exploration and fantasy and adventure. Go Talk Now, that we just looked at for augmentative communication, you can build books in there. You can create on your own pages of books and record in there, have video of somebody reading a book. It's not just for communication. Another great app called This Is My Story, and This Is My Story takes you through the ability to create using simple, short phrases, put together a child's own story. So like, this is a cat, so you're pulling that phrase together. The cat has a hat. So it's allowing that child to sort of build that. And similar to that is First Phrases HD. But I'm going to go ahead and go and share my screen with you and show you Epic, because it really is just one of my all-time favorites. I love the fact that it's not a bells and whistles, and I love the fact that it is available free for educators. So I'm going to go into share my screen. I'm going to mirror my iPad. Yay, it worked the first time this time. I'm so excited. And I am going to go in and show you Epic. And let's go out of that one. So you can go in and you can see all of the books that are available in this library of books, an ever-growing library of children's books from some of the world's best publishers, as it says. And so you can see it'll recommend books for you based on some of the books that you've already looked at, some old-time favorites like Berenstain Bears, and other ones. You can see if it has a microphone there, it will be read to you, and I'll see if I put my phone right up to it that you'll be able to hear. I'm sure you all know that rhyme and you don't need to keep hearing it. So again, you can see at a very simple level, it is not selectable text. So it's not the text that you might need for an older reader who needs to be able to select text and decide when it's read to them. But for interactive reading, it might be a way that, with children, and you can see a family Epic at home, 2 months free of Epic, that they'd be able to get. But what I really love is just being able to take any book, one that isn't necessarily digital, not necessarily narrated, and just be able to read that book. And sitting down with a child, I can enlarge it so that that's the whole screen and they're not seeing all the distractions behind it, and that you would read it just like you would read a paper book with a child. Knock, knock, who's at the door? Little who. And that you'd be able to get into, well, do you want me to turn the page? Do you want to turn the page? Do you want to, and maybe we need to start substituting the word swipe the page, because really this is the swipe generation, and that's what they're learning, that they swipe their finger along. So some really nice, lovely ways that they can get. And again, hundreds of different books. The books can actually be read offline, so if you are going to be someplace where you don't necessarily have internet access, you can choose to have a book and it gets saved so that it's read offline. And again, hundreds and hundreds of books in here at all different levels, fiction, nonfiction, fantasy, whatever is going to be appealing to those children that you can get into, and just that at your fingertips, there's whatever book that child wants. If they want it read over and over again, that's great. If they need a new book, there's always a new book for them. So I do really, really love that. I'm going to go back out of this and stop sharing my screen with you. Turn that mirroring off, go back to Adobe Connect. Stop sharing and go back to the presentation. I can't tell you how happy I am that this technology is working. Rachel said that she really loves me books, and I'll have to take a look at that. Rachel, tell us a little bit about it. Why is it your favorite? And it's great that you're showing us the things that are available for Android and Apple, and Epic is available for both Android and iOS as well. Some great. And again, hundreds and hundreds of different books. So Rachel says it allows children to record their voices for characters. So that's great too. Anything that allows those kids to get really actively involved in that. So that really does go back to our original ideas of what makes a great early childhood app. So somebody before had mentioned something, and you can record over the text, Rachel says. So families can record stories in languages other than English. That's really super. That's wonderful. And we won't get into app smashing in this session, but you can do that even with something like Epic if you have another tool called Explain Everything, where you can kind of mash two apps together and get a little bit more bang for your buck. But we're going to take a look now at some things that really support movement. I think the fine motor pieces, a lot of people are like, yeah, sure, we can get into drawing apps, and we'll take a look at one of my favorite ones called Drawing Pad. But actually there's some great apps out there and other ideas for supporting gross motor movement so that kids aren't just being sedentary. And that was really came out of some of the recommendations, if you saw earlier, that it's not just about sitting. So there's an app called Moves Like Me where it encourages the child to imitate the motor movements of a character on the screen. And then there's Yogaverse, I Am Love, which is all about children and hopefully their caregivers and parents doing yoga together. So it's very, very peaceful and really nice way to work on self-regulation for some children. So an app out there that's for teaching young kids yoga. And there's a lot of research out there that shows the benefits of young children engaging in yoga for self-regulation and calming, and even baby yoga. And you'll find that there are people out there that are certified as baby yoga instructors. But Yogaverse is a way that you can bring it in for anyone. I'm just going to show you drawing pad really quickly because I don't want to take, I've got a few more minutes left. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one last time with you guys and show you the drawing pad app. I like it because, again, that whole idea of the 3D, the 2D and 3D, and that we want to have that transfer, eliminate that transfer deficit. So I'm going to mirror my iPad, and it's going to hopefully come up. Seems like sometimes I have to do this twice. Let's try it one more time. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if it lets me come on up. There we go. So so that 3D, that 2D, 3D, we want to make sure. So drawing pad I love because the tools in there look like the drawing tools that a child would use. So when we open the drawer, we've got our paintbrush that looks like a paintbrush. We've got our crayons that look like crayons, and I've got the whole rainbow of crayons out there. When I go and look at, like those markers that are like different stickers and such, all of the different things that kids, then you can take them and be like, oh, you did it on your iPad, let's do it on with paper and pencil. Or you've done it with paper and pencil, we can do it with our mobile device. So I can get in there and I can have paint, brushes that look like paint. So I do really love that. It has great stickers as well, so lots of really nice, and you can choose photos and backgrounds from your camera roll as well. So just really rich, and I love the fact that the tools look like, you can type in it as well, that they look like the things that kids are getting to use. Like the chalk looks like chalk, and that I can go in and I can use all of those, go back in, that I can get to those items, and they really look like what it is that kids get to use. So again, just when we think about that criteria and the recommendations, this is an app that helps support it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I just have a couple minutes left. I need to get off of my mirroring. Okay, I'm going to go back and into the PowerPoint. And I want to ask everybody, what are your thoughts now? So I know there were some people earlier that were like, no, you don't use screen time with zero, with kids that are younger than 2. Do you do nothing but screen time with 0 and 2? I don't know about that. But what are your thoughts now that mobile technology and the apps that are a part of this can be used in meaningful ways, even with the youngest learners? While screen time and media should not dominate a young child's play, it can be used effectively to promote language development, play, interaction with peers, and adults, and the development of critical preschool skills. So what do you think? Type in the chat window and let me know. Did this presentation broaden your perspective? Did it give you a better understanding of the research and policy statements out there? It says multiple attendees are typing, so I'm interested to see what people are thinking. I'm going to scroll ahead for just a minute while you guys are typing. I want to let you know all the resources, all of the articles, websites, reviews on the different apps, links to the apps, all of the research and policy statements I showed you, they're available from my DIGO page. So that's DIGO, www.diig.com/user/POSBeth, my last name and then first name. And then if you search under Swipe Generation, you can click directly on this link as well. So all of those resources, they're linked in the presentation. I know that Nolan is going to put up the PowerPoint as well, but it's all there. And then all of the apps that I show and more are on my Pinterest pre-K apps page. So you can search for POSBeth and Pinterest and find them as well. But if you go to DIGO, D-I-I-G-O, you search for Beth Poss or my username, which is POSBeth, and then look under Swipe Generation, you'll find all the resources that I reference in this. So if you need things to explain why you're doing something, to help someone change perspective of why it's valuable to use screen time, and what are the best practices for using mobile technology with young children, you'll be able to do that. So I see there you can, that file, Nolan's making it available to you. So it's the whole presentation, including my notes. Kaylee says it gives a better understanding of the recommendations out there. It helps know what apps to look for. It's culturally diverse. Jackie says there's so many excellent developmentally appropriate apps, and including more for even those with disabilities, and that more parents and EI specialists will get on board. So lots of great comments that are coming in here. I'm also open to any questions that folks have. I know that there is a survey. I'm just going to, I don't think I can do that. There you go. There's a survey that CTD would like you, and I would like you to have as well, to hear your feedback. It's at surveymonkey.com/s/CTD Cafe events. I know the technology was a little frustrating initially, so I really appreciate everybody hanging in there and getting through that. And for those of you that maybe stayed on by the telephone, we still have a bunch of people that are on by telephone. You should be able to hopefully get into the cafe events area and download the PowerPoint, even if you can't see the PowerPoint right now, and this is all being recorded. If I'm looking to see what other comments that people made. Teresa, definitely can be used to enhance skills as long as the caregiver parent is interacting with the child. That is key. You're welcome, Jerry Ann. You're welcome, Abby. And you're welcome, Indira. Thank you guys. Thank everybody for participating and for sticking with us through our initial technology glitch. I know we'll be doing, CTD is going to be doing more with this. I'll be moving into hopefully in the very near future, a more extended course, online course on the appropriate use, developmentally appropriate use of mobile technology with young children. So that might be something that if you really want to get in depth with how you can use this to support your practices or change your practices. So you're welcome, Jan, and you're welcome, Gloria. You're welcome, Jill. So please survey, go through the Survey Monkey. I'll stay on in case anybody has any questions, and I